Support for WBFO and What's Next comes from our members and from Health Foundation for Western and Central New York, where racial and socioeconomic health equity are prioritized. Learn more about building healthier neighborhoods at hfwcny.org.
From Buffalo Toronto Public Media, this is What's Next, an hour dedicated to amplifying the voices of marginalized and underrepresented communities across Western New York and Southern Ontario.
We cannot erase, we cannot reform, we cannot make things better if we're uncomfortable having tough conversations,
Absolutely.
if we're uncomfortable talking about race.
What's Next carries forward our mission to engage in meaningful conversations about race, equity, and the shared concerns that deeply affect Buffalo's East Side and beyond.
Don't stop. Make those families part of your life. Their lives are part of yours. Don't stop.
Together, we dive into the real issues, striving for understanding, connection, and change.
In the suburban area, everywhere, we must work and teach our children.
And good morning. This is Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR. This is What's Next. My name is Jay Moran. Pleased to be with you for the next hour and pleased to have three special guests with us. We've had programs before here on What's Next, and it's earlier renditions with members of the Buffalo team going to the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. This year, three of our guests today are members of a 5-member team, right, that is going to the Southern Fried Poetry Slam in Knoxville, Tennessee, June 11th through the 14th. With us, Dallas Taylor, who I have to, I guess, what's the word? I just acknowledge the fact that we're co-workers, right, yes, Dallas, of course. Yeah. Longtime co-workers. I think people are familiar with you and your voice, of course. Also with us, Yamilla Tate. Yamilla, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Joshua Herbert, thanks very much for joining us as well.
Thrilled to be here.
This is great. These are uplifting conversations because I like the way, poetry in general, art in general, of course, explores a lot of different issues, but a poetry slam is a little bit different, and it takes us to interesting places. What would you say? Let's start with you, Dallas. Is different from a poetry slam to maybe what we might go to see at a poetry reading, say, wherever, at a college or the case may be. What would you say is the difference?
The difference is you're being judged publicly.
The big smile comes to your face.
Very publicly. There's judges that will literally, after your poem, give you a score, 1 through 10, how they felt your poem, what they thought of your poem, and then you have to go back and sit down and think about, all right, do I want to write ever again, or all right, I can accept that score. But it's a fun competition where, as our captain Brandon Williamson says, for Peering Poetry, a poetry slam is a poetry slam is a poetry slam, and all that means is you're up there to tell your story. And every poetry slam is different because there's different judges. So every time you go up there, there's somebody there who hasn't heard your story, and they're waiting to hear your story. So that's the fun part about it. But it is a little bit nerve-wracking when you have other competitors, aka poets, trying to beat your score and trying to have a better poem than you. So, competitive
poetry.
Yes.
It almost sounds like an oxymoron of sorts, yes. Right? But so what is that like? What is it like then to be up there on a live mic like that, and all of a sudden you're going to get the thumbs up, you're going to get a score, whatever the case may be? What's that like?
I really enjoy the energy that comes from it. Not so much the attention, but just kind of like the energy in the room. It's different from, say, a poetry open mic in the sense that at times I think people in an open mic want to be very respectful. Mm-hmm. There's not too much cheering, not too much clapping and stomping and snapping. You get the occasional respectful but not the people stomping. And I absolutely love the energy of this whole room just invested in this competition in poetry and the artistry that's coming out of it. So it's just this celebration even. It's just a party through and through. And I absolutely love that energy that is brought to poetry in that sense. It's something very different, and it makes the poetry feel very alive. That's how I would describe it.
How about for you, Joshua? We went from Dallas, who kind of gave us a more daunting picture of things, to Yamilla, who says it's kind of a party atmosphere. But what about for you?
I live for the competition of it. I mean, I already loved the art. The art is its own reward. But, when you get to go in there and while you're on the mic, you're laying your heart on the table, leaving yourself vulnerable, but then you're going to find out if you did it better than the two people sitting next to you. And that's a thrill all on its own.
Yeah. So we should note that there are 5 people going to Southern Fried Poetry. Who are the other 2 members who couldn't be here with us today?
We have Janelle Kerr and JB Stone.
Okay. All right. So so we just want to give them the props that they deserve for sure. But let's get into how it came to be that the 3 of you, and of course the 2 other members of the team, are heading to Knoxville. How does this all come about? There's a competitions?
So Pure Ink Poetry is a local poetry organization here in Buffalo, and it's hosted by Brandon Williamson, and they host poetry slams maybe like once a month.
Yeah.
And there's a season of those poetry slams. So you compete in those poetry slams, and if you place, it's wherever you place, you get points.
Okay.
Obviously, first place gets the most points. At the end of the season, whoever is like the top 4, top 5 rankings, then those top 5 people will qualify for the national team that'll go down to wherever Southern Fried Poetry Slam is as the Pure Ink poetry team to represent Buffalo in that slam. So to get on the team, you just go compete in slams and give it your all. And at the end of the season, you see where you rank. And it's like a all-star voting, except it's not so much fan-based.
Not quite that nice. Yeah. So to that, so is it different public spaces then? These were being held throughout the year, or what?
It'll primarily be held at the Ujima Theater.
Okay.
But at times, primarily for like special events, you're going to get it in different parts of Buffalo. So it's not always Ujima Theater. Sometimes you'll see it in other locations. And like during the summer, for example, you'll even get it in a park, which is really fun.
It does sound like fun.
Yes.
So, but it's interesting, hopefully we're going to inspire some people to get involved as we move along here. But I'm also wondering, if you show up, you're a first timer, you're going to show up and you're going to give this a shot, and what you put out there stinks. What's the response? Is it favorable and supportive, honest, critical to the bone? What do we got?
So as much as when the lights are on, like it's blood between the 3 of us here. When the lights go off, we're going out to dinner. We're all supporting each other. We're all one community, even through the competitions, through the season. Everyone's out to win it for themselves, but at the same time, I've never run into anybody in this community who's not open to helping another poet. Maybe there's something that they're not happy with in their performance that they want to work on. And, we have so many experienced members of this community that are always willing to reach out and help a poet who's interested in receiving the help. So we're as much as we all want to be the number one,
of course,
we are still one family.
What do you take though from these slams? What when you hear somebody say, "Yamilla, you didn't have it tonight," do you take that to your craft and then reapply it, or how do you work through that?
Yeah. So I come from a very performance-heavy background. So in my opinion, as an artist, you cannot grow if you can't take criticism and you can't take feedback. So me personally, if I receive feedback that's like, that could have been done better, I take it as, okay, what is it that could have been done better? What do you think from an audience perspective would have gone through? Did the message I was trying to communicate go through? Because in my case, I like having particular messages in my performances, and I want that to come through. So I just go back to the drawing board and I say, okay, what can I rework? What's going to resonate? But also it's important to keep integrity for yourself in the sense of, okay, this is something I'm going to hang on to because this is also important to me. So it comes also with knowing how to balance, I want this feedback, but also your integrity as an artist and what it is that you're trying to project, but at the same time, is it the best that you can project? So you're always teetering the balance between those two things.
Sure, I can see that. What about you? How about for you, Dallas?
Going off of that, I think we can all attest here as poets, as artists, as competitive poets, you kind of feel it when you know you didn't give it your best, even before you see the scores. Like, that wasn't quite it. and then you get a score that kind of affirms that, like a 7.7. It's like, I expected that.
7.7. That sounds pretty good, actually. Yeah.
It's
based on the way my high school grades were.
But then there's those times where you're like, I didn't give it my all. And then you get like a 9. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess they felt something, even if I didn't feel it myself. The audience felt something. I think that's the best part of being an artist. Like, no matter what you put out there, there's going to be at least one person who felt the true message that you were trying to get out, even when you go back like, that was not my best, or I didn't really word that right. Someone's going to feel it. Someone's going to feel something in your work. I think that's the inspiring part that, at least for me, makes me keep going. Like, no matter what I put out there, someone's going to feel it and want to get up on stage themselves and do it.
And we didn't even mention, when you're on stage, you're on the clock. Yeah. You have a 3-minute time limit.
Okay.
There's only a 10-second grace period before going over your time starts taking points off your score.
Oh.
So actually at our season finale slam, I was up on stage reciting a poem and realized that I skipped a critical line of the poem.
My!
You can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's just like you got to press on, because if I try to go back and fix it, I'm running over my time. I'm costing myself. So it's.
So how did you adapt? You just left it out.
I just left it out. I just tried to make it look like I meant to say it that way.
Okay, that worked out. Worked out enough, right?
It worked out enough. It got a little. Got a little hairy at the end. I had a big tiebreaker with one Dallas Taylor. Actually, we were tied for second place. We had to scrap it out one more time, head to head.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Spoiler alert! You're going to tell, or should I just assume that because you made the Southern Fried, you succeeded?
I squeaked out that tiebreaker, but that was a fun tiebreaker because we both had similar themed poems.
Well, what was the theme? Wow!
So
a stumper early on.
We're kind of involved in a poetry beef right now.
Please expand.
The Dallas and I were targeted by Buffalo's own Ashley M. Hardy, who's a longtime poet in the community, well beloved by the city, and she took aim at Dallas and I as being lovesick poets. Writing lovesick poems, and she takes umbrage with that. She wants us to leave the heart out of it a little bit more, and so Dallas and I each had to respond. And since we were doing it in a tiebreaker in the final slam of the season, we went up there and closed it out. I responded to Ashley, Dallas responded to Ashley, and that's how we went off the air for the year.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Tell me just a little bit about the response, please.
I channeled a little bit of the rap beef of 2024 and kind of put a little bit of that in there. But it's nice to get a lot of that. It's fun to have that other part of the competition of being a competitor, especially in this, especially in the arts field where you don't always see it, or it's not always out in the open as much. Right. But like Josh was saying before, like there's no like real animosity there. It's all just all in jest. We hope.
Speak for yourself, Dallas.
So, what about how the performance? Yamilla, you mentioned how your performance gets judged a certain way, and you kind of consider things over. But what about for your writing? Your actual composition of these poems, does the response from the audience change maybe how you go back to the drawing board?
So it's interesting that you ask that. I would say that in many slam circles, there's kind of this debate over, does the performance matter more or does the writing matter more? I'm of the opinion that they are equally important. Whenever I write a piece, I write it thinking this is going to be performed, but I also write it thinking this is going to be read. So in my work, I strive for the poetry to land regardless if you're hearing it or if you're reading it. So I think writing matters a lot.
Sure.
It's the way that your words are coming out. It's how you're structuring your rhymes, how you're structuring your patterns. So it matters, and all of that creates a certain feeling for your audience, and you can create rhythms out of this, and that's going to land differently in your audience's ear. So they're going to react differently naturally. So I'm always thinking it matters just as much as how I'm putting it out there. So I never let my writing suffer for the sake of the performance aspect of it.
How about for you, Joshua?
My writing, actually, since I started slamming, has evolved a lot. This is actually only my first year doing slam, but I've been writing poetry for a very long time. And there's almost like a, for lack of a better term, like a slam style. There's certain things, certain flows that resonate with the crowd, and certain methods of delivery for delivering your message within a 3-minute window where, not that everybody sounds the same or anything like that, but as you do it more, you can kind of, as you're writing it, figure like, this isn't going to really work for a slam crowd versus, say, an open mic crowd where you're just going there to share poetry for poetry.
Sure.
But yeah, I definitely evolved a lot as a writer in the way that my poems sound to the ear, and the digestibility of language, I think, is also important in a slam crowd, because you're not generally being judged by poets. You're generally being judged by people who are just there to spectate, there to consume the art, but not necessarily artists themselves. So being able to take your story that you've crafted into this poem and deliver it to all walks of life that are going to be in that room is definitely an important piece of the slam.
I would agree with that. I would say I've almost, in a way, tried to make since I started slamming, it's been more that slam style writing for performance and not just writing for the word of it.
Right.
But then I found that I've also had to kind of tailor my writing a little bit, because I tend to get a little bit too lyrical. And in that case, you kind of, if there's too many like metaphors and twisted and flipped metaphors, then they'll probably miss the point of it because you got too deep into it.
Sure.
So trying to simplify that, but also trying to still add my own artistry to it is something that I'm still working through, because I just can't help but just to have a rhyme scheme, then an internal rhyme scheme, but then a metaphor that flips in that rhyme scheme. It's like, all right, this makes sense to me, but if I say this stanza out loud, will the people who are listening get the message?
And by the way, if you're with us on What's Next today, we are talking about the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. 3 members of the team from Buffalo that's going to the event on June 11th through the 14th in Knoxville, Tennessee. Dallas Taylor, Joshua Herbert, and Yamilla Tate. And also, by the way, I should mention that each of our poets have agreed to perform for us before the end of this program. So that's coming up. So stay around for that, and we're looking forward to that. Should we judge each other while we're doing this? I don't think I feel I could do that, actually. But anyway, what about themes, though? What about the growth of your themes? Are these performances, these live performances, these slam poetry events, are they changing what you write about, what you're looking to explore? You shook your head, Yamilla.
For me personally, no.
Okay.
So typically in many poetry slams, you're going to see that it's very social justice heavy. I write a lot of social justice content, but at the same time, I talk a lot about just what it's like to be just a human being in this world and in our current day and age. So for me, I'm trying to tell a story and an experience. Frankly, I don't care if an audience is looking too much for one particular theme or not. I'm here to give you my art, and if it resonates with you, it resonates with you. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But my experience is an experience, and it's somebody else's experience as well. It's going to resonate with somebody. So theme-wise, I tend to keep it to what I feel called to write about, I would say. So for me in particular, it doesn't necessarily shift depending on the slam.
I'm wondering also about that evolution for you.
Yes.
is that something that you've always felt when you kind of gravitated toward poetry and writing? Like, I'm going to put myself, I'm here to put this out from my expression, not for, to the others to help dictate what I'm talking about.
Yes and no. I don't necessarily view it as my sole expression. So a lot of my work has to do with Black and brown communities, the experiences of women, LGBTQIA plus experiences. So it's not necessarily that I view it as just my experience. For me, it's also a matter of I like to give light to experiences that maybe others wouldn't have considered before. So yes, it is my story, but at the same time, I like using my art to give a voice to those who maybe feel afraid to do so, or something that I feel people need to hear a bit more often. So for me, that's always been the motivation for why I do art in general. So slams haven't necessarily changed my content as much as just helped me evolve in my craft, I would say.
Joshua, how about you and your content?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the content that I explore has changed too much. I was writing about mental health topics before, and I'm writing about mental health topics now. But the way that I deliver that message has changed. Much like what Dallas was saying before, if you get too metaphor heavy, you get too lyrical, too cute with the words, they get lost. And that was the big change for me, was changing the way I deliver the message so that it does reach the people that I'm trying to reach, the people whose voices are not heard, people who feel left behind by the ever churning grind of society. So yeah, being able to make sure that I can reach the people that my art is trying to reach out to is important.
Well, Dallas, how about for you? I mean, I've known you all these years, but you're always the still waters, and this is not so still place. What about for you? Have you experienced like a growth, change, whatever you want to call it?
I have. It's changed a lot of. So it's half and half. A lot of my content has changed. I started writing poetry. I started writing love poems. Like that's what it was. That's where my mind was at. That's where my heart was at. But then going into slams, it's kind of weird. Like love poems don't really score that well. It seems like people don't really want to hear that stuff. So then I was like, all right, since this isn't working, I'll kind of write what people are expecting to hear. But then in doing that, I was able to find my own voice in that, because I could see like, all right, they're writing about this. I would like to write about that, but not in the way that they're writing about it. So now I'm in this place where I can kind of go back and forth, where but I can write a love poem, but then I can also write some of the social justice stuff. And what put me back into the middle was I went to a slam in Hamilton, Ontario, and I did one of my love poems in the slam. And it scored really well. But then during like the break, one of the other guys came up to me and said, "Hey, I loved your piece. Like a lot of men, we don't talk like that. Like we don't talk like that in public." It's like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to get at. And like you just said it perfectly in where my poem said a little bit too much words to it, but that said it perfect. Like men, we don't really have the opportunities to express vulnerability out in public and also do it in a poem out in public. And I think there's strength in that, to be able to put your heart on your sleeve and let your emotions out there, because in society as men, you're told to do the opposite of that. Like tuck it in, like be a man, suck it up, that kind of stuff. But as a man, to be able to express what I actually feel and with no judgment, no shame, no embarrassment, that is a empowering feeling. And that's what put me back. All right, what I was doing before is the right move, and I can kind of bounce in and out because there's that part of it. But then there's also that social justice part that you do feel, but you kind of balance in the middle there. So it has changed my content, but it's in a good way. It helped me find my own voice and my own style in that.
We've got a lot to talk about here. This is a fun conversation, and I really appreciate our three guests today. They are three members of the team that's going to the Southern Fried Poetry Slam in Knoxville, Tennessee, June 11th through the 14th. If you're not familiar with the Southern Fried Poetry Slam, we've had programs on this before here on What's Next and its predecessors. And with that, it's one of the largest spoken word competitions anywhere, as a matter of fact. So we're very honored to have with us Dallas Taylor, Joshua Herbert, and Yamilla Tate. We're going to take a time out, come back with more. As a matter of fact, Yamilla is going to be performing for us coming up when we come back from break. So stay with us. This is What's Next on Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR.
Corey here with the Compact Civics Expansion Pack.
America is such a big, wide, awesome place, and to be able to see things that are representative of so many different places can be so important when brought to your tiny town.
Everybody is so kind and loving. I'm here in Buffalo just because of Stage Buffalo.
From urban farms to rural fairs, we'll celebrate spaces that bring us together and create community.
Watch on the Buffalo Toronto Public Media YouTube channel.
This is Jack Cruiser with The Scoreboard on BTPM NPR. Listen during Morning Edition and All Things Considered each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. For the latest on pro matchups and college rivalries, as well as standout local athletes from Western New York and Southern Ontario. Want more? Listen to a longer version of The Scoreboard at btpm.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the BTPM Listen app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@btpm.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR.
And I hope you're appreciating the conversation that we're having today with three members of the Buffalo team heading to the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. With us, Dallas Taylor, Joshua Herbert, and Yamilla Tate. And Yamilla has been nominated to be the first of our three poets with us today to give us a performance of a piece. Yamilla, take the stage, please.
Right. Thank you. This piece is titled Poetry. I want to give a bit of background knowledge on it before I start. I wrote this as a response to the murder of Sonia Macy. This piece is a criticism on times when things like the unjust murder of Black folk in this country is used as a way to pretty much people giving themselves credit on social media, trying to say, oh, look at me, I'm supporting this. When Black death is used as content for art in a way that seems not prudent at the moment, and where it can lack some of the respect that the people deserve after an unjust murder. So this piece is titled Poetry, and it's pretty much my reflection on all of these things. I don't know how better else to describe it. Poetry. Oxford said it's a literary work in which special intensity is given to the expression of feelings and ideas, a quality of beauty and intensity of emotion, something regarded as comparable to poetry in its beauty. Poetry is poetry. The ancestors. The ancestors that made it to Turtle Island in shackles, the ancestors that chose to sink into the ocean as their final act of free will, the ancestors that braided maps lined with rice, the ancestors that danced when they couldn't speak, the ancestors that revolted, the ancestors that were just trying to get by, who told you beauty is pain. Why have you swallowed the lie that struggle is beauty and not anything but survival? Who made you a mortician's cosmetologist? Who told you to pimp a corpse? How'd you get permission to make a gallery out of chalk outlines? Ancestors fighting their wars over the hope for emancipation. Ancestors through the railroads. Mothers birthing babies of pale tyrants. Fathers being torn away from their families. Children asking questions under a grueling sun. Women forced to be the anesthesia list test subjects. Men forced to beat each other to death for white entertainment. Poetry has odes. Poetry has elegies. Who convinced you this needs accolades? Who convinced you This be an epic for the gods. How do you package nameless graves into a bestseller? Jim Crow, sharecropping, race massacres, lynchings, drug infiltration, mass incarceration. Where's the poetry? Where's the beauty without the gaslighting, the intense emotion without the trauma pimping? Where did we all get the idea that this be some kind of poetic justice? Addie Mae Collins, Denise McNair, Carol Robertson, Cynthia Wesley. See, I'm a poet. And poets speak truth into the void of denial. This is not a poem. This is the longest running obituary in human history. Latasha Harlins, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice. This is Black Death. This is a plague of the human genome. Poetry is poetry. Black Death is Black Death. There is no poetry in Black Death. Poetry is beauty. Poetry is truth. There is no beauty in Black Death. There is no truth in Black Death. Poetry gives light and fills a room. Black Death only takes and leaves nothing behind. Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor. This is not an ode. This is not an elegy. I refuse to call Black Death poetry. This is not a poem. But now we add a new stanza, and it starts with Sonia Macy. Black Death is not poetry. But here I am dropping verses over a tragedy, because in the era of aesthetics, nothing really matters if it's not pretty. But I still refuse to call this poetry. Black Death is not poetry. I wish this were the last time I have to make it pretty for it to matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Yamilla Tate, with us on What's Next. One of the members of the Buffalo team going to the Southern Fried Poetry Slam in Knoxville, June 11th through the 14th. Let's ask for reaction from our panel here. Two other poets. Dallas? I mean, you're probably familiar with the piece, of course, but it's always different to hear it live, isn't it?
Yeah, it's when you're listening to poetry, there's like different, especially when you hear it multiple times. It's like watching a movie, like you catch something that you didn't quite catch the first time. But the line that always comes back to me is like, this is the longest running obituary. It just speaks to like how history just has a knack of repeating itself and not really correcting itself. And we just kind of have the same story over and over and over again. And I think that poem kind of tells that story. Like this keeps happening. Like we keep having to add names to a list, add more hashtags to the post, like that kind of thing. I think that poem speaks to it perfectly.
I can't imagine a poetry slam, someone giving that a mark anything below a perfect score. But I mean, how about it for you, Joshua? How does it impact you?
Yeah. Every time I hear that poem, I think about the first time I heard it. Which was at Cafe Aroma at a poetry open mic on a Wednesday night. And I mean, the room was silent. There's two different reactions that you can generally get when you're sharing your poetry like that. And, you know, sometimes you'll hear theater snaps or people, you know, audibly reacting to lines that strike them. But when they're really listening, when they're just locked into you, they're silent. And then, I mean, the crowd exploded after the poem was finished. And it's such a perfect picture of the modern climate and the way that suffering, especially of marginalized communities, is commoditized. And I think it's also a great example of something that I think the Pure Ink team does really well. It was mentioned before, I think, by Dallas, how a lot of the poetry down there is going to be very social justice heavy, and the poems that we're taking down there with us are, you know, to stand out a little bit more. And the way that my teammates take social justice and imprint it on the heart is really special.
I'm glad you made that segue because we did talk about this before we went on the air about what you guys are going to do when you get to Knoxville. And you've got a plan. Let's talk about the plan. What's in store?
I want to point out about the piece as well before
Please.
we move on. I know you mentioned about, how could anyone give that less than a 10? Here's the truth about me and pieces such as that. I actually don't care what I score on those pieces. I really do not care. I only do it to deliver a message, and for me, it's just I want more people to hear it, and that's it. Like, I could not care less what it scores. It's so irrelevant to me. So yeah. And I also want to point out, if the piece seems a bit like she's doing the thing that she's telling people not to do in the piece, that's the point. That's the point.
Right.
Speaking of the point, there's a common phrase in poetry slam circles. The points are not the point is the poetry.
Yes.
Yeah. Or like if you're given a piece and maybe you get a score that you don't like, but you get like a really good audience reaction, that feels much better than seeing a number on a scorecard.
Yeah.
But like when you're like getting those messages across, going into what we're planning to bring down the Southern Fried is, well, they would like shout out to JB. He would like us to point out that Plan A, we're going down there to win.
Okay.
That's what, he would want us to say that. But some of the pieces that we're bringing down, they have to do, some of it is social justice, but it's framed in a way that it's not always Black Death.
Yes.
I remember very vividly when I went down there last year, there's a lot of that. And for me, it got like, all right, this is a lot. The content is a lot, but also like there's more stories than this. Like there's other angles in poetry that you can take than this. So some of the pieces that we have, one is We the Poets that Yamilla's a lead writer on, which is basically this idea of how America is trying to take artistry away from the artist. And this poem is pretty much telling the poets in the room to keep doing what you're doing and keep writing your stories, because these are the stories that will live on long after we're gone.
Yes.
If I'm saying that, the point of that.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good, yes.
But there's just stuff like that where we're trying to, my perspective, we're trying to put more hope on the stage and into the hearts and minds of the people that are listening. But it's not all just despair and dark and down times. Like those are going to happen. But in order for us to keep on going as artists, we need to instill hope in the people that are listening and the people that are going to listen. So I think that is built in through a lot of our poems, and just I think as us as individual artists, we're trying to instill hope even in our lovesick poems. Like that's those are hopeful messages. Like we're not down because our heart is broken. Like we're hopeful because we're up here on this stage saying how we feel.
So it's interesting. So you're the lead poet on this. Is this going to be a collaboration?
Yes. So there's something called indie pieces and there's something called group pieces. Indie pieces would be, for example, like what I just did and what Dallas and Joshua will be doing soon. These are pieces that are written by one person and performed by one person. Then you have group pieces. And this is where the performance aspect really, really takes off in a poetry slam. A group piece is a poem that is performed by more than one person. There is choreography to it. There is acting that goes with it. And typically group pieces are written by more than one person. Now, Dallas points out that I'm the lead writer in it because I wrote the majority of that group piece. When you're in a poetry slam, there's also the question of who takes the credit for the piece. That also decides who goes in what round based off of who's claiming the piece and all that. So that's why there's also those distinctions made in group pieces on who the lead writer is for each one.
So I'm fascinated by this concept of the group piece. When we say group, the entire group will be performing, or maybe just one or two people, or how would that work?
Sometimes there's one that we have where it's all of us. Some there may be 3 people. Some poems there's just 2 people. So it all just varies on how you want to perform the poem, or in some cases how the poem is written. So it all just depends on how we feel the poem will get what message to be conveyed through that poem.
And it's so interesting because poetry seems like such a solitary pursuit that, it's in your mind and this is what you're putting out. But at the same time now here you're being asked to collaborate. How does that work for you?
I think it's great to be in the room just all together working toward the same goal, and having so many different voices and eyes on the same piece. I think it's a much more different process than just sitting at my desk by myself writing my own my own thing. But it's a lot of fun because you can take your ideas and filter them through people who are looking at it from a completely different angle, and it just makes things stronger, and it really just brings us together as a team and enforces that idea that we're going down to Southern Fried together to win this thing together.
And you're ready. This is going to be your first time, Joshua.
Yes.
Southern Fried. Your second time, Yamilla.
Yes.
Dallas,
second
number
time.
3 or 2?
No,
2
just
times.
2. Yeah.
So how about that, living together with poets for 3 or 4 days?
It can I'll speak. It can be challenging at times, okay. Especially as you kind of work through how you operate with other people and also just other artists and how your mind works. Like me, I'm very much a person like, all right, I need some space to really work through my thoughts. But then for some people, they like to work it out with other people. But then it just comes in communicating, all right, I'll come here for a little bit, but then after about 15, 20 minutes or so, I'm going to go into my room and kind of just decompress a little bit. So it's a lot of just people being people and people working through people things, and like that's another part of it that is going down there with artists and friends and just humans in general, just living with other people,
right?
Which I've always lived alone, so it's a little, all right, here we go. Here we go.
We're talking about the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. We're going to have to take a short time out because we still have 2 performances to come, one from Dallas Taylor, one from Joshua Herbert, and we have more conversations still ahead here on What's Next. We're talking about the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. This is What's Next on Buffalo, Toronto, Public Media, NPR.
What do classical symphonies, in-depth news, dramas, DIY, and your favorite indie bands have in common? They're all part of Buffalo, Toronto Public Media. We've updated our station names to reflect the big picture. BTPM PBS, BTPM NPR, BTPM Classical, BTPM The Bridge, BTPM Create, and BTPM PBS Kids. Different formats, one mission: to serve our cross-border community. Learn more at btpm.org.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the BTPM Listen app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using what'snext@btpm.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is Buffalo, Toronto Public Media, NPR.
Welcome back to What's Next. We're talking with the 3 members of the Buffalo team going to the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. Dallas Taylor, Yamilla Tate, and also Joshua Herbert. Joshua has agreed to be our next performer. Joshua, please take it away.
Yeah, my piece is a newer piece that I debuted recently at our season finale slam called Caged Animal. And the background is that I had an unfortunate accident and fractured both of my femurs and my pelvis. And the way that sort of as I've been walking with a cane while I've been healing, the different way that I feel now, observing the world around me and the way that the world observes me, and the ways that have changed, and the ways that in a lot of senses it feels almost like a zoo animal. And it was rolling around with me for a while before I finally nailed down what I wanted it to say. I don't know if you all can read this on me, but my heart is racing right now. How could I begin to explain that walking up to the What's Next studio with a cane feels like clawed paws pacing with stripes on my face because I watched myself become a caged animal? I never thought I would be here. My enclosure is open to prying eyes that peek, but not for me. Not anymore. There are no doors or windows here, only walls painted with my dreams put on hold. My spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So I chopped it up for meat, stuffed it into a ball, and called it poetry, and now I roll this ball around my enclosure when I'm not getting enough enrichment. And the eyes that watch me, fingers pointing, projection pours from gaping mouths before your eyes realize I'm just a mirror. Whatever you hear from me most clearly is only a reflection of you. The world gave me a puzzle I didn't understand how to solve, so I took up all the pieces and put them back together inside out, and now I'm locked in a prison of my own design. I'm the architect of my own destiny, fallible and filthy. Even the purest ink will stain an unsteady hand, and when my pen is emptied for cleaning, it's showtime. I'm strung up like a marionette and walked across the stage of a hateful God's puppet show, with someone else's voice speaking for me for so long that I don't remember what I sound like. But I can't stay silent any longer because a hit dog's gonna holler and an arena demands a performance. And the audience demands blood from the performers. So here it is, my struggle laid bare for you, my soul clawing its way out of this bone cage, reaching out for you. Are you still there? Can you hear me? I've broken down our fourth wall for you. You're welcome. No more smoke and mirrors. No clever turns of phrase to mask the despair underneath. It's just me. The show's over. You're free to leave and turn the lights out. Just don't forget about me.
Joshua Herbert with us here on What's Next, one of the three members of the Buffalo team heading to the Southern Fried Poetry Slam in Knoxville, Tennessee. 3 of 5 members, we should mention. I want to make sure, because we are running low on time, we've got Dallas Taylor waiting on deck here in a couple of minutes, but I want to make sure that, because I'd like to think that our audience has stayed with us and has been moved by what they've heard here, just from a personal perspective. How could, let's say, Yamilla, if somebody wanted to find out more about your work, where could they go? What should they do?
Yeah, right now I'm confined to my poet's Instagram, Yamilla _Tate_writer. That's my Instagram, and I try to be consistent on it, on what I'm doing. But yes, if you want to know about what I'm doing, where I'm performing, see some new pieces, that's where you can find some stuff.
On Instagram?
Yes.
Okay. And how about for you, Joshua?
I can also be found on Instagram at 7th Facade. I'm not especially active on there. Really, the best way to find me is to keep in touch with Pure Ink Poetry on Instagram.
Okay.
That's where our captain, Brandon Williamson, posts all of our upcoming events, such as this Sunday. We have a free slam in the park. It's free to come spectate on the corner of Elmwood Avenue and Bidwell Parkway. In Bidwell Park, we'll be slamming at, I believe, 4 o'clock. Sign-ups for poets starts at 3:30, and we get started at 4. It's just a nice afternoon in the park, sharing some poetry with the people.
Dallas, how about for you? You're a blogger now, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Doing a little bit, but I'm on Instagram, Dallas Taylor I. I'm starting a Poetry Monday, so every Monday I write a new poem, post it on there. Just helps me keep the pen going and keep my mind going. So I don't go months and months without writing anything new. So I go to a slam like, there you go. Josh goes, this piece again.
It's interesting. I mean, to hear you guys talk like that, the discipline that's involved in poetry. In one way, you kind of look at it as this kind of free-flowing form, but in a lot of ways, I mean, it seems like to ground you to a certain extent. Would you say that's right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. In my case, something that I always strive to do, even if I'm not revising or writing a full piece, at least I'm going to do like a 5-minute free write throughout the day, at the very least. So that way I'm always thinking, and I always have kind of like a bank of ideas to pull from for when I'm either trying to write a new piece or I'm revising something old.
How about for you, Joshua?
I'm significantly less disciplined in structuring when I write or how I write. I actually have been struggling a lot the last few months to write anything new, but I'm really excited about a piece that's starting to come together for me about rhubarb. So, that is
it is rhubarb season. So
I'm very excited about.
Dallas, I don't want to take away your time here. Are you ready to tee up for us here?
I am certainly ready. This is a love poem, and it's affectionately titled Peanut Butter. TSA has said that peanut butter is a liquid. Well, that is not true. First of all, if you're bringing peanut butter to the airport, then what's the matter with you? But now let's get to the task at hand. TSA has come up with this grand idea that peanut butter is a liquid. Well, here's the thing, kids. I've been eating peanut butter since I was a kid, and one thing that I never did was pour Peter Pan into a yellow lid, but I was more of a Jif person myself. Every time I reach up on the shelf for the clear jar for the product that enhanced my sandwiches for the betterment of my health, never once did I spill, because I got it like that. And then I'll spread it so good, then I'll flip it on its back. See, I don't just talk about it, I am about it. And if you tell me peanut butter is a liquid, well then, yeah, I doubt it, but let's talk about it. Peanut butter is butter, right? Okay, let's start there and put the rest out of sight. We have butter, but then there's liquid butter. They can't be the same. If they were the same, why would they have a different name? These are the things that make me insane. Is ice water? Yes or no? Now, if you say no, I'd agree, but if you say yes, how so? I get its contents are the same, but its states of being are different. It's like you and your boyfriend love each other, but he's afraid of commitment. Your contents are the same, but your states of being are different. It's like when I mess up, it's a problem, but when you mess up, it's an accident. Our contents are the same, but our states of being are different. Like I admit to my mistakes, but you always say, no, I didn't. See how two things can be the same, but totally different at the same time? Well, I can see how things get blurry, so let me make a clear line. There is nothing butter. It is not liquid. Dallas, calm down in case they miss it. I said there is nothing but her. It is not liquid. And if I didn't tell her, that's something I couldn't live with. She's difficult when cold, but she is smooth when she's hot. And she fits with just about everything, no matter how much I've got. She's a different kind of flavor, one you don't get in the store. So once you use her all up, you don't get her no more. So I savor every solid moment, because solid is what this is. And never let them tell you that peanut butter is a liquid.
Dallas Taylor with us here on What's Next, along with Joshua Herbert and Yamilla Tate, the three of the five individuals from Buffalo heading down to the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. So, Yamilla, you have the experience to be there. Have you got any advice for our first-time participant at Southern Fried?
This sounds counterintuitive, but Josh, listen to me. You got to go to bed so late. You got to go to bed late, because you got to enjoy your time there and hang out with the amazing poets that you're going to meet. Learn from them. Do ciphers with them. Get their contact, because you're going to meet some incredible poets that they are just a blessing to meet and learn from. So go to bed late.
I knew that insomnia was going to come in handy someday.
Well, I wish you guys was. Is there a way that we can find out how well you do? I mean, is there a way to follow you guys down there, or what? What do you think?
Yes, southernfriedpoetryslam.com tracks the rankings.
Oh, my.
Yes. So you can actually go in and check on us daily while we're down there from the 11th to the 14th next month. It'll be updated regularly on spreadsheets of how everybody's scoring and how everybody ranks.
And we're looking under Buffalo?
So you'd be looking under Pure Ink Poetry.
Pure Ink Poetry.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we should really give a couple of shouts out here. We've already mentioned them a few times, but if not for them, this would not be a reality, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Based on what I saw here, I think 3 really solid representatives from Buffalo, and I wish you so very well, and thanks very much for being with us on What's Next.
Thank you so much.
With us, the 3 of the 5 members going to the Southern Fried Poetry Slam from Pure Ink Poetry here in Buffalo, Dallas Taylor, Joshua Herbert, and Yamilla Tate. They are coming up on June 11th through the 14th in Knoxville, Tennessee. My name's Jay Moran. This has been What's Next on Buffalo Toronto Public Media, NPR.
Support for WBFO and What's Next comes from our members and from Health Foundation for Western and Central New York, where racial and socioeconomic health equity are prioritized. Learn more about building healthier neighborhoods at hfwcny.org.